Hi everyone, last week I shared on commandments number 1 to 3. Today we'll discuss commandments number 4, number 5, and number 6. We are brother's keepers, and the reality of our own fragility is especially seen when we suffer pain, when we suffer losses. And when somebody else who is like us understands where we come from, in that sense, it becomes really consoling. Because now people like to use their pets as their consoling, but then the pets can only console, I think, to a certain extent, in a very, very real manner. Yes, they do console, but they cannot give the feedback that only a human person can give in that sense. Whether your pets really understand the way that you think that they understand, it's really not really known. I'm just saying that it is the Lord has created us as persons to being able to share our emotions and thoughts as something which is uniquely for us human beings to share. And thus, we have equal dignity and we need to respect each other. So, the commandments are essential for us to live a moral life. By moral, it means that we treat each other not just courteously, but with respect. Yeah, we treat each other because we are all created in God's image and likeness without exception. And it gives us also a meaning because it teaches us how to be good. Because to be good, even at the price, gives us meaning and makes us happy. Yeah. So the last seven commandments concern primarily as us as human persons. If you look at the commandments, we don't talk about the respect for creation. We don't talk about ecology. We don't talk about Greenpeace. There's nothing mentioned about creation. Yeah. But everything is in reference to man and God. Yeah, man and woman and God. So these commandments are the foundation for our own personal dignity. And thus, when we talk about human rights, as how we understand human rights, as how it is defined in the International Declaration of Human Rights, ultimately it has its foundation in natural law, which we covered last week, and also ultimately makes explicit in the commandments of God. Yeah, it deals with our relation to self, to God, to each other, and to our possessions. Yeah. And you also notice that the church and God's commandments are not against the ownership of private property, not against it at all, because there's a commandment on that. Do not covet your neighbor's goods, meaning implying that you can keep goods. Yeah. So this is thou honor thy father and mother. Yeah, first it started with a couple getting together. Yeah, the fourth commandment addresses the life within the family, the most basic of human society. That's why the church calls it the natural nucleus of society, the foundation of all societal life. Because from the family we learn how to be moral. From the family we learn what love is and what love is not. Hopefully, or even in a warped manner, we learn whatever that our parents teach us or don't teach us. And thus, the basic respect to seniors starts with filial piety, honoring our parents first. By extension, it then requires respect for all those around us with authority. That's why the commandments in itself speaks about that way of proper address to people, proper ways of conduct. There's a way of deference to those who are seniors or who are worthy of respect, be it given by their office or whatever it is. Yeah. And thus, with the nucleus of society, that's why in the social teachings of the church, when we talk about the principles of the gospel applied to social life, that's what the social teachings are. It always has the family as a reference point. That's why in the social teaching, it talks about the rights of the family to education. It talks about the right of the family to have a decent earning so that they can maintain their familial life together. It talks about the family needing and having a right to proper housing, for example. Things like this are part of the social teachings of the church. Because thou shalt honor thy father and mother, not just thy father, but thy mother as well. And because when both are mentioned together, the woman and the man are of equal dignity as what God has commanded at the creation of Adam and Eve. Yeah. If you notice also, Eve was formed from the ribs of Adam, implying she was by his side. If she was not formed at the head, that means it's higher than him, or from the feet, that means it's lower than him. That is never the intention. He was formed from the side, from the same soil that he was made. Yeah. So these are all within the the commandment. Now, all these form the background, although it's not mentioned, but this is known and expected and implied. So my body, my decision, the pro-choice movement, and this pro-choice movement is not um, the position of the church. Again, we don't want to make it sound as if, yeah, pro-life is whatever the church stands for and all. It becomes polemical. We defend life. We are for life. We are not against the respect for the body, definitely not. But we do not respect or we do not promote the body to the exclusion of all else in that sense. Yeah. So the fifth commandment, thou shalt not kill. Yeah. Addresses the sanctity of all human life. It just says thou shalt not kill, and that's why thou shalt not kill what? Thou shalt not kill ourselves and others. Yeah. You know? So self-defense and legitimate armed national defense, again, are exceptions to this rule. If you are being, there's a danger of you being murdered or killed unjustly, be it because of kidnapping or whatever, you kill your assailant, it's not self-defense because you need to preserve your life. National defense, again, you defend the country for patriotic reasons and all sorts of things. Yeah, you do what you, as far as a person, and as far as your conscience can inform you, you decide accordingly. Of course, this is not a definite known, I mean, definite cover all absolving of sins. It's not like that also. But it's something that is a general principle that applies generally. And thus, when you look at the whatever is against the commandment is self-explanatory. Yeah? Murder, abortion, embryonic stem cell harvesting, because by embryonic stem cell, you have it in the blast stage of 8 cells, and then when you harvest the stem cell, of course, you destroy the whole embryo. So you're killing the embryo, yeah? Euthanasia, which is deliberate, what we call physician-assisted suicide, or patient-initiated suicide assisted by the, I mean, the same lah. It's all wrong. Kidnapping, terrorism because you destroy others, hatred, giving scandal, failing to care for one's health and the health of others, especially when we are irresponsible, like for example, smoking and use a secondhand smoke and things like that. These are all sinful. Yeah, these are all sinful, and we need to and will have to answer before God everything that we have not done with our neighbor in consideration. This is so common today until it doesn't need to say anything anymore, right? Have you all been doing these things also? Thou shalt not commit adultery, yeah? It addresses the sanctity of marriage and the value of sexuality in God's plan, yeah? For God, when He created sex, He created it so wonderfully good that it becomes so easy to abuse. They became an absolute good that people would want at all cost, at all price, and with whoever that they want at any time of the day. Yeah. But God wanted us to be free, in control of ourselves and also of our passions. Yeah. And the call to chastity is not, chastity doesn't equal no sex. It's not the same. Chastity means faithfulness. The call to chastity in marriage is to be faithful to your spouse. The call of chastity to the single person is to wait. And of course, the chastity for the religious is that you sacrifice and you live in a celibate state for the sake of God's kingdom, to witness to a greater reality that God is the only one that will satisfy the desires of the human heart. Yeah? Thus, the following, which I'm sure you are so familiar with, we do not need to go into in great detail. Adultery refers to sexual acts for those persons who are already married. Divorce is, of course, never allowed by the church or never part of God's plan. Cohabitation, that means trial marriage, definitely not allowed. Incest, polygamy, having more than one wife, yeah. Polyandry, having more than one husband, both are not allowed, yeah. Masturbation, for obvious reasons, because we are using our own bodies for our own personal sexual gratification to the exclusion of the other. Fornication is sex between persons who are or in themselves not married. Yeah, so that's the difference between adultery and fornication. Pornography, prostitution, rape, contraception in any form, yeah. Sterilization, especially in the case of Singapore, postpartum sterilization is sinful. Is sinful. Artificial forms of contraception, which is, for example, IVF and so on, and homosexual acts are as differentiated from homosexual orientation. Homosexual acts are sinful. Homosexual orientation is not. Yeah, it is disordered, but it doesn't constitute a sin. In the following week, I'll continue with commandments number 7 to 10. Thank you for your kind attention.